Leonie Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Um, so I discovered you on Facebook. So it seems to be a pretty usual way to
Mhm.
discover musicians, artists, you know, all kinds of folks these days. Um, even much more so than doing like a Google search or finding somebody on their website or
Totally. Mhm.
any of that. It just seems like this social media is the way, especially since this with the pandemic. It seems like it became even more so that way. Um, and I'm an introvert, so I think
Me
maybe I
too.
prefer that.
Me too,
Um,
I'm the same.
all right, all right. I did an episode. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I did an. I've got a live streaming show that I do once a week. I didn't actually do it yesterday, but it's usually on Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called Thunder's Thoughts. And last week's show was called "Shyness is a Superpower,"
What is
and
shyness? Shyness.
shyness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shyness is a superpower. So, uh, me and my the co-host, which was Ike Ogiamian, who I frequently collaborate with, online. We've got a weekly show. Now it's on Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on his channel called um, Getting Ish Done. But he came on over to my channel for uh, this Thunder's Thoughts program where we focused on introversion or being introverted, and as opposed to extroverted, and then talked about some of the advantages of being an introvert.
Hmm.
Now, especially as a musician, someone that has to spend a lot of time alone, practicing, listening to music, active listening, like really dissecting stuff, and all the kind of stuff that you have to do as an artist. All of the alone time. Being an introvert is actually quite an advantage because um, I teach, and in my uh, in my uh, in my students, I will often notice the difference between the students that seem to have an easier time spending that alone time practicing and the ones that kind of, they'll practice because they kind of have to do it, but they would rather be, hanging out and doing a lot of social stuff. And so um, it's interesting. So
Yeah, I
you said,
recognize that. Yeah.
yeah. So you said that you're introverted. I mean, does it seem like that has been a benefit to you as far as your practice habits?
It does have benefits, and there are also some things that are harder for me.
Mm.
The what you just said about working at home, being alone. This is something I really like actually, and
Mm.
everything social situations, and also doing an interview like that, I'm quite nervous about it in the beginning.
Mm.
And I also, it's always before a situation that I get stressed, and when I'm in it, it's gone. Or most of the time it goes away. But sometimes I have like the anticipatory anxiety where
Mm.
already think about like a week before of an event coming up, and I'm working on that because it can be a little bit tiring sometimes.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I think one thing that uh, students, uh, something that I talk to my students about frequently is this whole, performance anxiety thing. That's it's a regular topic. and it's a regular topic because it's, it's kind of the human condition, right? I think that if you're not at least a little anxious about things that are of significance to you, then it means that you're some sort of sociopath.
Yeah, that's
I don't know
true.
if I.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. That's a joke that I tell my students all the time. I say, hey, you know, any of you that aren't, getting nervous about juries, or that are not nervous about your recital, those that don't have any anxiety about, concerts that you have coming up. I don't know. I don't know if I, you know, maybe I need to hide my address from you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
because
because it's so
it's
human. It's important to us. So it's human to we show up on stage and we are vulnerable in that moment. So I think it's
mm,
it's normal to be a little bit scared sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've been let's see here, 41 years. I've been a musician for 41 years. I started when I was young. Um, and uh, it doesn't matter. I still get nervous, a little anxious. Now, I don't get what they would call stage fright. And stage fright is like when you're like you're you can't control, you're
Shaking
shaking. I
and
mean,
yeah.
and stuff like that. I don't get that, but I'm very much in my head. I'm like, this needs to
Yeah.
go well,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, I recognize that too. I
yeah,
have that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it's good to know that you're human.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's funny, something I wanted to mention is I spoke to a close friend who's a musician too, and she told me, I found it funny because she told me, I'm not nervous or I'm not anxious before the concert, but I get anxious after. So she goes up on stage, no problem. She's playing. She's a great player, and then afterwards she starts uh,
mm,
spinning in her head about what did I just play? What was it good? Was it not good? Or so
mm.
everybody is different, but yeah, it's fun.
But everybody's affected by it. That's
Yes.
that's interesting. The sort of delayed response. So we
Hmm.
have this
Hmm.
sort of what is it? Fight or flight. You know,
Yes. Yes.
um, when we were put under sort of stress, stressful kind of situations, and in extreme cases, people get what's called uh, PTSD, right? Post traumatic stress disorder,
Hmm.
right? So if you have a real, you know, people that go to fight in wars and stuff like that frequently have it. But you can also get that from having a particular sort of traumatic kind of event.
Hmm.
And I had, and this is associated with, I went back to college to do a doctorate. And at the end of my doctorate, so that you're talking about um, having a delayed response and getting the nerves on the backside, right? So so I went in for my uh, what is it, comprehensive and oral exam, like it's like the final thing that you do. You have a committee, and yeah, I was a little nervous on the front side about that because I had a lot of time in, a lot of studying and stuff, but that was really no problem when I was doing it. And then they left the room, or they had me leave the room so they could deliberate, right? And then they asked me to come back in. Congratulations, it's like, congratulations, Dr. Wallace, and I'm like, great, this is great. So then I'm thinking, you know what? All of the stress is gone. I'm gonna sleep like a baby. It's gonna be great. But I'm gonna tell you, I actually, for about a month and a half, I couldn't sleep.
Because of all the
After,
adrenaline, maybe, or the
yeah,
cortisol,
yeah,
or
I like
stress
had
levels.
I just right. It's like the fight or flight thing got stuck on.
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
And so then I had, and it was really bad. I was having issues with, like I said, I couldn't sleep, and then I
Did
was
you have
having,
pressure? Did you have pressure on your chest too, and breathing
uh,
stuff? Or
yes, I had constricted breathing.
mm.
I had, what do you call it? I was having panic attacks, like around the clock, during the day, at night, especially when I would try to lay down to go to sleep. I would start having panic attacks. It was just really, really bizarre, really crazy.
Yeah.
And but the thing is your body changes, the way that you deal with stress and stuff changes over the course of your life, and then you have to factor in stuff like family history, your maybe potential for developing more intense responses to stress. And yeah, it can be quite I mean, I ended up going to a counselor. I was talking to the counselor about this, trying to calm myself down. It's like, what can I do? This is, I mean, I kind of do need sleep. And when I said I couldn't sleep, sometimes people say that frequently. Oh man, I couldn't sleep last night, but they slept like 4 hours.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Still. Uh-huh. Yeah.
right. When I say I couldn't sleep, I mean there was no sleep happening. Anytime I
That's dangerous.
approached anything, oh yeah, it was really not good. So then what would happen is like during the day, but I still had like a lot of activity. I still had a lot of stuff that I had to do. I had to be highly functioning. And I'd be in the middle of rehearsals and I'm falling asleep in rehearsals and stuff, because I just couldn't stay awake.
Wow. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, and usually I had like a really high tolerance for caffeine, which is not a good thing. But I had a high tolerance for it, right? But I
Did
I
you drink a lot
became
of coffee?
not during that period because I became super super sensitive to coffee.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if I or to caffeine, I don't really drink coffee, but energy drinks and stuff. So anything that had any caffeine, even like soda, just a little bit of caffeine, that made me way more anxious. And I'd even have more panic attacks and stuff. I was like, come on, man. So I can't sleep at night. I'm falling asleep during the day, and then I can't do anything to to make it so I'm not falling asleep in rehearsals and stuff. So anyhow, but that's been long since over. But I was just offering that up as an example of sort of a anxiety sort of on the backside of something that's a big event, because sometimes your brain doesn't know, it doesn't really know that the stuff is over.
Exactly.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah. All right, so tell us about you. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about I don't know, maybe how you grew up, and maybe music, playing the bass, and when that started.
Yeah, I wanted to say first that I feel like we're a lot alike, because a lot of what you just told me, I I had the same thing, or I'm still having the same thing. So I have a lot of compassion for that. Yeah. So I grew up in Germany, near Stuttgart.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, he's a musician. Until today, he's a musician, and he's been leading a big band, a professional big band, already when I was little. So I went to the rehearsals Tuesday nights, and I got very inspired because they did Duke Ellington program, or they did a lot of great projects. And when I was 7 years old, I started playing the violin, because I also had a lot of affection for classical music. So I started playing the violin, and later, when I was 15 years old, I think I said to my dad, I said, they seem to have so much fun in your rehearsals, and where I do my rehearsals, it's so serious. Everyone is so serious, and nobody makes jokes, and where the music you're playing, everybody seems to have so much fun. And then I said, I would rather play in your big band. So he said, you could try playing bass, because you're already playing strings, so you could try out bass. And then I don't know where he did find it, or where he got me a bass, and then I tried, and then I fell in love, and then I started playing bass, and I never touched the violin again.
Yeah. So, and what were some of your sort of early, I mean, what kind of music and stuff around the house? I can imagine if he had a big band, then you were hearing Duke Ellington and maybe Count Basie and stuff like that around the house all the time.
Yes, Glenn Miller, Count Basie, Duke Ellington. He introduced me to Ray Brown.
Oh yeah.
And he's a big fan of all the, I don't know, this area, bebop area, or the Ray Brown area, I would say, because it's really, he's such a big name.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And who were some of your maybe your early teachers? So I mean, you were playing violin. Maybe who was your teacher when you were doing violin, and then when you switched to bass, did you have some teachers?
Yeah. So I don't even remember her name. I first went to a woman she taught me the violin, and later on I changed, and I saw Mr. Knieps is his name. It's a long time I've not been thinking about him. And then when I started playing bass, there was a teacher at the school where my father is teaching, the music school, and he was actually the bass player of his big band. So I went to see him, and he was a great teacher, because he was also a very good bass player. His name's German. German names.
Yeah. So and that's that's something that I have stressed, I suppose, in my philosophy about teaching. There's this unfortunate saying that seems to be widely accepted, but I think it's not good, and that is those that don't do teach, or those that can't do rather teach. And so the problem with that is, if you can't play, then why
would you teach?
Why would you teach? Right.
Good question.
It is a terrible saying, but unfortunately I think a lot of people accept that as being some sort of truth. So you weren't commercially successful, you couldn't get any gigs, you weren't as good as others, so hey, why not try teaching? It's like, really?
It's the same with journalism sometimes. I feel like the journalists who write about musicians, sometimes they're also musicians who didn't make it, or who didn't. Yeah. That's what I have.
Now that's actually, see, the thing is that's actually true.
Yeah. I'm afraid so.
Critics, right?
Yes.
Music critics. Yeah, it's just like there a lot. It seems like there's a disproportionate number of music critics that are just haters. They love being able to say something critical or mean-spirited about someone that's actually doing what it is that they wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really have to know about music if you want to write about it, because there's so much detail and I don't know. There are so many things you have to consider judging about music. So
yeah. So it's so that those that can't do teach thing is a goofy thing. You know, being a music critic, because you yourself, weren't capable. That doesn't seem like a great idea either. Now, I will admit that there are a number of teachers that really shouldn't be teaching because they really can't play. Right?
Large number. Yeah, I think.
yeah. But I think it's it's not good, right? Because if you can't really play well, or at least at some point, if you couldn't play well, then all you're going to be doing is spreading your poison, right? And that's unfortunate.
That's also, I think, why a lot of musicians are self-taught, or they learn themselves. They go see concerts and ask the musicians directly. You can learn so much from that. I was always going to concerts, and then afterwards I would help the musicians carry the drums to the car, or I would help out, and so I could talk to them, and that's how I got most inspired.
Yeah. That's good. Offering up, a service, help, being willing to do like what you said, help people break down, not expecting anything in exchange, right? But being willing to do that. An example of that is, and I used this example before on this program. I can't think of the name of the pianist that's in question, but it was someone like, it was a great pianist. It was a great jazz pianist, someone that had a lot of gigs, someone that had a trio, so could have been like Oscar Peterson or something like that. But I can't remember who the pianist is in particular. But there was I think he was a bass player, and what he did was he transcribed like all of a particular artist's music, or a lot of it. Okay, he transcribed the music and solos and stuff, but then also like really well done charts of like all of this music that a particular artist that they really admired played. And they themselves were a great musician, so it wasn't like they couldn't play, X, Y, and Z. And obviously they could hear really well, and the transcriptions were done really, really well. So he showed up to a gig where this keyboard player that he really admired was, and said, "Hey, I just wanted to give these to you." So it's all these transcriptions, really well done of, we're talking, dozens and dozens of charts. So it's incredible stuff, right? And of course, the artist is very much, flattered by it, moved by the fact that someone wanted to spend this much time. It's not asking them for any money, not saying, "Hey, if you want these charts, you can pay me for them." And it's none of that. It's just, "Hey, I just wanted to do this because I love your music so much." Bang. They exchange contact information. They know that they're a great musician. At some point, they went to see them play to verify that they were a great musician. And guess who ends up with a gig in the band, at least for a period of time, when the bass player couldn't make it, or the drummer, whoever it was in the band couldn't make it, right? it just seems to me like that's not, that is not, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of folks that are willing to do that anymore. You know, it seems like people want to get paid on the front side. They, you know, they want to see evidence that something is going to pan out, that it's going to work out if they spend all this time and energy, you know. It just seems to be less willingness to do that and more expectation that every second that you spend doing any kind of, you know, labor, I got to get compensated for this. You know, it just seems to be like that's what the deal is now. Now, and part of that I understand because though we're in 2022 now, most of the gigs still pay the same way that they've been paying for like the last 20 years. And so you know, it's tough to make a living as a musician. So you have to understand when to sort of be willing to donate, give your time, and when to be, you know, insistent that, okay, this gig actually doesn't pay what it needs to pay. I need this to be, and you know, can you pony up for some of the accommodations, you know, that kind of thing. So what do you think of that? I said a bunch of stuff, but
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a balance of you have to know the situation, because sometimes you get asked by people who have a lot of money, and then I think they should pay you. But sometimes there are projects with a lot of potential and there's no money yet, and then it's worth it to invest a little bit or to give something. And yeah. I'm doing that a lot. If I believe in something, I give of my time, and if it goes well, it's great. If it doesn't, I stop doing it maybe, or it depends. And sometimes I'm also learning. I'm more of the opposite. I'm more like I have to learn how to ask for more money sometimes, because I'm so much about music that I want to do well, and I only think about the music, and then I forget to do the business around it sometimes. So I'm actually working on that to be better in some situations and still be generous with other projects.
Yeah. So having that sort of balance.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, what are some things about you that maybe people don't know?
Oh, I have to think. I try even on the social media, I try to really show a little bit of everything of me, because I think it's important to share also your insecurities and your doubts, because social media is such a unreal space, and sometimes by only looking at social media you can get so insecure about yourself, and that's only because people are not talking about how they're really feeling. So I give a little insight, but not too much, because I'm also very shy and very introverted. So I haven't figured out yet how to present myself to speak into the camera sometimes, or I never do that. So I think I don't really have a secret, because I'm a lot about music. I love working out. I love family, friends. I have a very simple life. I think I'm quite boring, actually. I'm so happy with very few things. I need time to play my instruments, and I need time to work out and see my close people, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm pretty boring myself too. I mean, I
like boring.
I mean, I have a lot of interests, but I'm pretty, you know, disciplined about the stuff that I'm doing, you know. So, and discipline by its nature is boring, right? So getting up and doing kind of the same thing, the same sort of routine. I can do the same thing over and over and over and not have an issue with it, right?
Mhm.
As long as it's the stuff that I enjoy doing.
And
For
it has
instance,
to improve too. I think if you can do
right,
something every day, if you see improvement, if it stays the same, you would probably ask yourself some questions about that.
yeah,
But
right. Now, I I sometimes describe myself as being bored easily,
Mhm.
but I think most of the boredom comes when it's like when you don't see some results, and or when like I play I play different instruments, right? So I play saxophone was my first instrument. So saxophone, flute, and clarinet. I guess those are my first instruments. Um, but then keyboard and uh, uh, bass and guitar, right?
that's
And I
impressive.
spend
That's a lot.
thank you. Well, I spend a lot of time, and these days I spend most of my time practicing when I'm practicing, bass and guitar. Guitar is the last instrument, so that's the one that um, I'm tending to spend most of the time, on because there's still a bunch of stuff I'm not getting around the way that I want to. I can't, I can't play the things that I hear with as much ease as I can on like saxophone or something. And so those are ones that I end up spending more time practicing. And of course, there's the sort of difference between uh, practicing and farting around. you know, I can, and I tell people, I tell my students this is one of those things I think that, I wish, well, it would be better if more people admitted. Um, I love to fart around, right? Wasting time. Oh, I got this new effect pedal. I got this, I can waste a lot of time. I'm a gear junkie, you know. Let me get online. Let me look at, what the new, pickups I can. I learned how to work on guitars and stuff. I mean, I love to do all that kind of nerdy, goofy stuff, and I love just playing my instrument, right? But that's different from actually practicing. Practicing is when you're like struggling with something. And though I have spent a lot of hours in my lifetime practicing, and I practice frequently and consistently and all that, it's not, practicing is not really what I want to do. I'd rather just pick the instrument up and just aimlessly play and just, have fun like that. How, how do you, what do you think of that? Is that something that you wrestle with at all?
Yes. So I'm not so much of a gear junkie, but I like to just play and just let my hands do something and see where they go sometimes.
Right.
And I think that's important too, to not lose the playful side of practice, or maybe
Right.
it's like a warm-up sometimes. And then with practice, the hard thing about it is for me that the thing I have to work, the most important thing to work on for me is always the thing I have a little bit of resistance to it sometimes. The hardest thing is where you find your resistance in yourself, and you have to confront it, or else you will feel like a loser all day long because you didn't confront the one thing you had to work on, and then you go to bed and you did play, but it's not fulfilling or it's not satisfying somehow. So that's how I measure if I had a productive rehearsal day or practice day. And sometimes I get there, and sometimes I just can't. I don't know. I'm working around something I'm not ready to confront yet, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that. Um, I tell my students that the practice thing. Practicing can be sort of the practice room can be like a microcosm for your life. It can be a small version of what's happening in the real world. And so your sort of success tackling those things that you don't want to deal with in the practice room can actually teach you how to be willing to confront issues, in your regular life, as it were. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have some sort of interpersonal struggle with a friend. Maybe a family member did something and you need to confront that, but you've been avoiding it, or, any number of things, something on your job, you know, uh, you know, being insistent about asking for a pay raise or something when you just want to sort of, I'm okay. All of that kind of stuff, I think.
As long as there's no conflict, I'm good.
Oh, right. But I think the practice room can sort of teach you at least how to temporarily be willing to deal with some conflict. You don't want to constantly deal with conflict. Nobody wants to do that. But if you face something, then you don't have to face it anymore, right? It's
True.
done. You faced it. Now it's, so I don't know. Of course I get, I can get very anxious about stuff like that myself. And I don't know. Sometimes what happens is I'll have like a, so where I teach at, I'm the area head. I'm the director of the department, right? And almost all of the stuff that I do, of course, I get called as a sideman frequently, and I have clients that are asking me to do specific things, and so that's kind of a different sort of hat to wear. But most of the time, I'm sort of the person that people are looking at. Okay, what do I do? I'm the person that's, I suppose, in charge. I guess that's the way you put it. And often is the case that I have to have sort of, kind of conversations that aren't the preferred conversations to have. And it can be really sort of alienating, and that whole, it's lonely on top or whatever, that whole thing. There's a lot of truth to that, because you're not really going to be able to have certain kinds of conversations with people that you supervise. It wouldn't be appropriate. And it creates really strange dynamics, but, you still have to figure out how you're going to navigate and everything. But often what will happen is, so say for instance, if I have a bad sort of interaction, if something doesn't go the way that I would want it to go, man, it's like, it can be like months of that being in the back of my head. And at least for the first couple weeks, like really intense, like really bothering me, where I'm like thinking about it, I'm dreaming about it.
Are you having also having the conversation in your head first, like a million times, and then
all of that,
trying to say the right thing?
Yeah, and so it's just anyhow, nobody wants to do that, but I think having practice doing it, as it were, I think can make it less, maybe less dramatic, less intense, and make you more willing to take it on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think sometimes we underestimate the positive side of giving things time to also let things settle and then let it process it, and then sometimes the solution comes up by itself. And sometimes I try to force to find a solution and I'm not in the flow and it's not the real honest answer actually. And then I'm sometimes I'm quite slow with some things, but it goes at the end, it goes faster because I'm honest. I'm not trying to be somebody else, or I'm not trying to go faster than my slowest part. Because sometimes there's too much self-doubt or too much anxiety, and then I go, okay, I still have to be kind to myself, and then I do my best, and some things are not happening now, but they happen later, and I have so much trust in life that it's actually going quite well that way for me.
So you said when I asked you maybe things that people don't know about you, one of the things that you said was about working out and the fitness thing. Now, you're obviously fit, and
right now I'm not at my best, but
well, you look fit. Let's put it that way.
thanks.
And you look fit at a time where there really is, and it's not as much of an epidemic in Europe, but in America, it's an epidemic, and I think this is worldwide, of just overweight, obesity. People dying prematurely because they didn't take care of themselves, and there's no place, no discipline, rather, no job, I guess, for the lack of a better term, where it's more obvious that there's a serious fitness issue than musicians. You may have heard the term musician's physique. Now, musician's physique is actually pejorative, right? So this is actually not a good thing. There's a bad connotation to musician's physique. Now, fortunately, it seems like, though there seems to be a sort of epidemic of just like not healthy stuff going on, there also seems to be a rise of people that are more conscious about their health and fitness. There's a number of like bodybuilders and distance runners and regular gym attenders, musicians these days. That is actually happening also. So it seems like on one side of it, it seems like there's an improvement and you see more people that are more health conscious, but then on the other side, it still seems like that part still seems to be getting worse. So with the fitness stuff, I mean, what got you into that? I know personally, I'm in a sort of drought right now. I'm in a low point because I have this injury that I'm trying to sort out with my left arm, and that has caused some challenges. So for the last 3 months, it's been really, really rough. Actually, I haven't even been to the gym, and I'm usually a 5 days a week person, but I'm about to get that started back again. But okay, so fitness, what do you think?
There's so much facet to it, I think, because there's for example, I come from a family, my mother always was very conscious about what she was cooking for us and what we were supposed to eat, and she would explain to us what's healthy, and sometimes even a little bit too much. I feel like sometimes I'm too worried about what I eat or too conscious, and sometimes I should just eat something and enjoy it. And then there's genetics. I think in my family, everyone is quite slim. So I think genetics are very important too. And then for me, I discovered working out when I felt very low. I felt very bad about myself. So I had to, it was the only way to not drown in too many problems, or I would spin in my head with too many thoughts and too much going on in my head and nothing going on in my body. So I had to get some balance in there, and I started working out. First, I went to the gym, but now because I live closer to nature, there's no gym, so I do it at home. I have my trampoline, and I have a membership at a Californian fitness studio, so I do it with streaming, and I do it every 2 days. And that's, if I don't play bass and if I don't work out, I lose balance, and I just need it. I cannot not do it.
Yeah, you know, this is interesting. I have noticed in my own life that when I have there seems to be three okay, so I'm a Christian. It's probably obvious. I have you probably see this icon right
Yes,
there.
Yeah.
Hi. Right. Yeah, he's watching. He's always watching. And so the whole spirit, soul, and body thing, right? And I've noticed that if I don't cater to, if I don't feed each part what it needs, if I do that for extended periods of time, I'll push myself into a burnout.
Yeah, that's also, I think health is not necessarily looking slim or looking fit, because I always struggle with health problems, and it's exactly because of that. I have to balance things. I can't work out too much, because then I have too much cortisol, or I don't know what's going on, but if there's too much stress on my body, I get other problems like eczema, or I have sometimes I get eczema on my hands, and sometimes I'm even scared that I can't play anymore because it's going on the sides of my fingers. And if I control what I eat, and I take care of myself, not too much stress, because stress is it always comes with stress first. And I think it's a lot about feeling, it's more about feeling good than having a physical goal, because everyone is built so differently.
Yeah. So if I sort of itemize, I suppose, so spiritually, so stuff like meditation, prayer, church attendance actually helps for me. Now I'm a church musician, so I'm in some sort of church each week, but that's not the same as, you know, participating in worship, you know, like just being someone that's just, I'm just attending. I'm not here to provide a service. I'm just here to, you know, to engage in this sort of discipline, the sort of spiritual discipline, the community prayer, or whatever, however you want to say it. So that, and then for, you know, physically, obviously it's going to the gym. It's obviously watching what you eat. It's stuff like getting enough sleep, you know, and that's been something, like I said before, that's been something that I've struggled with. But, you know, when I get more consistent sleep, and then of course I'm less reliant on stuff like energy drinks and all that kind of stuff. So there's like a bunch of stuff that's like all sort of connected. And then I noticed, like with the music stuff, I remember maybe my first sort of burnout, first couple burnouts, I'll say. And they were, and I didn't realize this, but they were associated with me doing a lot of, I was playing a lot and I was rehearsing a lot, but I wasn't playing a lot of the stuff that I wanted to be playing. Right. So I was a side man, which is fine. Most of the time I am a side man. That's okay. But you want to be doing stuff that you like, that you're engaged in, that you believe in, that you have a certain feeling when it goes well, it's really a good like experience, you know? And I was doing a bunch of stuff where, you know, I have an expectation of how I'm going to play. You know, I expect to sound good. I'm going to do what I need to do to play well. But that's not enough. It has to be play well for a particular purpose. And I've started to realize that you know, that there's a connection there. If I do that too much, without having that sort of real connection, I mean, I got to the point where I didn't want to play. Like I went through a period, I was like, I don't even want to play. It was like 6 months of me like making myself play. I had a bunch of stuff booked. I had all this stuff I still had to do, but I was like, do I really want to play? And that really scared me.
Was it because the project the project wasn't the right project for you, or?
Yeah, I think it was, and it wasn't just one project. It was a bunch of stuff. So, you know, I was in like 5 bands or something. And I was just doing so much stuff and all this rehearsing and playing at church and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm not doing any of my own music. I'm not doing maybe playing maybe a particular, and this is oversimplified, but a particular maybe genre that I think that maybe I should be playing where I feel more at home. I'm not really doing that as much, you know, whatever it was. It's just a bunch of stuff that I was spinning my wheels and didn't seem like I was going anywhere with that. You know, you're making money, you know, all that stuff is good, but it's just not enough. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I wouldn't be doing music.
That's for sure. Yeah.
So that can't be oh my goodness.
So that's why it's so important to love what you do. If you
That's right.
choose to do something that doesn't pay well all the time and it's a struggle, you have to love it, because if you don't love it, there's no reason to do it. If there's not even money.
Yeah.
That's where I am actually right now. I'm also trying to figure out what I'm gonna say no to, maybe, or I'm just learning to select a little bit more, because I was doing everything. And it's also good because it gives you a lot of experience, and that's how you get your confidence maybe. And then we have to go deeper and find more purpose maybe. And that's where I'm at right now too.
It's interesting because you know, and I talk to folks about this pyramid sort of concept, and the pyramid concept is everyone starts on the bottom of the pyramid, right?
Everyone,
right? So what the bottom of the pyramid represents is there's no such thing as no. You say yes to everything.
Exactly.
You must say yes to everything because you're broke, because you have no experience, because nobody knows what you can do, because in many ways you don't know exactly what it is that you want to do.
Right? Yeah, you have to find out. Yeah,
that's right.
By doing.
So you say yes to everything. I did a presentation and panel discussion some years ago called "The Power of Yes: Developing Skills for a Career in the Music Industry."
Oh, I have to buy that.
Well, you don't have to buy it. You can just go to my YouTube channel, and
okay.
and do that. But it but the point was, and I used the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man as a sort of kind of metaphor to sort of engage the topic. And in that movie, he has to say yes to everything. He goes to some sort of I just want to make sure that I'm not conflating that movie with another movie, but he makes an agreement that he's going to say yes, right? And so he starts saying yes for absolutely everything. And
yeah,
so
that's Jim Carrey. I know that film. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very, it's very, it's silly, and he ends up, he ends up with like a mail order bride and all kinds of stuff. It's really like ridiculous where some of the stuff leads him, but it also leads him to the person that he ends up with, right? And he would never have met her if he was closing himself off by saying no, like he used to. And so it was, but that's what you have to do in the beginning. But what happens as you climb the pyramid, and the thing is also, people need to recognize this, that not everybody is going to get to the top of the pyramid. Matter of fact, most people do not get to the top. A very small percentage of folks, of probably musicians that we really, really admire, got to the top of the pyramid where they can say, you know what, I'm only doing this one thing, stop asking me to do anything else because I'm going to tell you no all the time. But it doesn't matter because they get paid a lot to do that one thing, and everybody knows them for that one thing. Most folks, you could probably get to about the middle of the pyramid, where you're doing a lot of the stuff that you want to do, but you still have to do some things that maybe is not the stuff that you want to do. But you can always be striving for sort of reducing the amount of stuff that you're doing, and becoming more of a specialist, as it were. But all of the experiences that you have, that's all super valuable. And the music industry is so diverse. There's so much stuff that you can do in the music industry. Not just playing your instrument, not just playing gigs, not just teaching. There's stuff on the sort of manufacturing side of music, the science of how to make instruments, the sales side of it, marketing side of it. There's the sort of entertainment law sort of component of the music industry. There's record executives. There's artist management. There's all these other things that are associated with music also, other than just playing your instrument, playing gigs, that kind of stuff. And all that stuff is great, of course, and that's the stuff that I want to do the most. But there's all these other things that you can do, but you won't really know if any of that stuff you dig if you say no to everything, right? So you got to say yes to everything, and then you start to figure out what you want to do. I've got a buddy that he did a master's degree at the same school I was at. I'm a little older than him, and after he's finished his master's degree, and he's a great saxophone player, he went to one of the it's actually one of the best law schools in the country, and because he wanted to practice entertainment law, right? So he did all of the degrees and did all the music stuff all the way up through his master's degree, and then he said, okay, well, this is great, but I kind of want to do this legal thing. So then he did that, and so now he's a person that he has a certain angle on the music. He understands the music in a way that most folks that do entertainment law do not understand the music that way. So it gives him an advantage. But anyhow, I'm babbling on.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All right. So, so so why don't you talk to us about some of the creative projects that you're involved in now?
So right now I'm actually still in the situation I play for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I do it the best, as good as I can. At the best, I do my best to do a good job. And I started writing songs, and then I stopped doing it because it scared me a lot to go into this. It's such a different kind of process to write your own songs. So they're sitting there now, and I'm not sure yet where to reconnect or how to reconnect with it. And so now I'm still focused on being side women player. So I'm, but I love the projects I'm doing. I'm playing a lot of jazz, and then I also this month I'm gonna play for a film festival, for a TV show. It's like the where they give the prizes to the actors, like the Festival of Cannes or something. So I'm gonna do this, and I have a lot of clubs, jazz clubs or events, and I'm quite happy about that right now. And then I'll be touring with a drummer in fall. We will be touring for 4 or 5 days in Germany. And what else do I have? There's another guy who's he's a singer-songwriter from UK, and he's also a sound engineer for the Abbey Road Studios. And he's touring in France, and I'll be playing with him. The concerts he's doing in France, I will be there, and yeah, just a lot of playing and traveling too.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So and how does the traveling thing go for you? I know I'm very much I've done a few tours with the Count Basie Orchestra. And then I've done some other touring with like the Cab Calloway Band and some other things, but that's not been a dominant part of my sort of music career, but it's stuff that I've done. And there's a 2-week I did a 2-week tour with the Basie Band. It was a European tour. And I mean, I like touring in that there's a lot of music and you get to play for different audiences and all of that, and it's really the only way to do that. I don't like touring for all of the other reasons. I don't really like being away from home for very long.
Yeah.
I don't sleep
I can relate.
that well.
Yeah,
I don't sleep that well when I'm on the road. And I have my studio set up in a certain way, and I've got all of my stuff here, and everything is set up. And you go on the road, and you don't have access to. I don't know. I miss my family. I have an 8-year-old son, so if I went on a tour now, that would he wouldn't like that very much. So anyhow, so I say that to ask you, what is your experience with touring? With traveling and stuff. What?
Yeah, I think because I've already been traveling so much for music, I know how much can go wrong when you're traveling. And that's why my travel anxiety gets worse, because I know there's a lot of chance that something will go wrong. Your train comes late, and then you miss your plane, or there's so many things that can go wrong, and so I'm always pretty anxious before traveling. And sometimes I'm even more anxious about traveling than the concert or the stuff I have to play, because yeah, I sometimes I get out of the moment and I'm projecting everything and everything that could go wrong, and I'm also getting counseling for that because I'm so also because I'm an introvert. I like being home. I like being with my husband, and I need my security. I don't know, my space, my habits and things. And but that once I'm gone, once I'm on the road, I like it. I meet people and I forget things, and I can enjoy it too. But yeah, I totally relate to what you were saying.
Yeah. You know, I've had okay, so one of the issues for me with traveling is, and this is related to some of the anxiety stuff. You know, I'm claustrophobic.
Oh, okay, there. I see.
Now I've you know, I've become a little bit better with the claustrophobic thing. I think I've worked out some ways to think about things, and also if I'm on a plane, I have to be in an aisle seat. If I'm on the window, I can't do it. If I'm in between, I can't do it. And it didn't used to be that way. And actually, I can track the exact moment when I became like claustrophobic, which is really strange because usually it's something that you maybe have some sort of predisposition towards, or like you always were that way or something. But in my case, it was brought on by a particular event, and that is I've had a history of issues with my shoulders, and so I've had to have some MRIs, and you know, I'm a pretty big person, so they sent me to some MRI machines where actually I was too big to fit in the machine, right? And then so they had to send me to another place. So then I'm in there for like 30 minutes, and I was fine, totally fine. And then all of a sudden something just clicked in my head and said, I got to get out of here right now. Right now. Get me out of here right now. And that was when I became really claustrophobic, like right away. So then stuff like getting on elevators. I remember I was doing a tour with the Cab Calloway band, and we had some driving in a van and some getting on an airplane. So I remember I got on an airplane. It was one of the smaller sort of crop duster planes, I call them. And I get on the plane, and I'm okay. And then they tell me that I have to sit on the window. And I'm telling you that I honestly was like, you know what? I don't need to do this. I was going to get off the plane. I was like, hey, I don't know, probably 10 hours away from home. Let me get a car rental. I'll just drive home. I'm, you know, it was not good, but that was when it was really intense. And then it started to get lesser intense. And now it's not really an issue getting on a plane as long as I can sit on the aisle and I don't get super anxious about it, especially if I can pre-board. You know, but it's like all like a mental game. It's like it's all in my head, and
Yeah, but that's a pretty traumatic experience that you had with a scanner, and yeah, I can understand.
yeah.
So are you adapting your life now to this, or are you traveling less because of this, or?
No, I don't travel less because of it. I've just basically figured out how to deal with it. Um, you know, and for you know, people that are watching that have struggled with, you know, anxiety and in different ways, or insomnia, you know. When you're, the counseling thing has been very helpful.
Yes, for me too.
Yeah, I went to a counselor, and the counselor told me, because he had gone through very similar stuff to me, had very similar issues, and he gave me some ways to think about these sort of panic attacks that I was having, and these sort of waves of anxiety, and he also told me, as far as the insomnia, is having a routine is really important. So one of my issues is that all the way up until, I don't know, what is it, 4 years ago or something, I never had to have a sleep routine. I just basically work until I can't. I work hard all day until I can't stay awake anymore. And then I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next day and work some more. That's basically what my life was. But now I need to go to bed at about the same time, and I have to have a really specific routine that I go through. And it's not super crazy, but it just has to be consistent. So that really helps. Also, like if you do have to do a lot of traveling, you're getting on planes and stuff, making sure that if you're having an issue with something like claustrophobia or being in closed spaces or something, then stuff like pre-boarding, and if you can ask the who is it, at the service desk or whatever, they'll ask you, you can tell them I have a medical condition, which I do, or I've been, going to counseling for whatever this thing. So you can tell them you have a medical condition, and then therefore you can board early. So you board before everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that has been a game changer. That's been tremendously beneficial. If I can go on prior, then I can see that the space is not as small as it seems when there's a bunch of people in there. And that just does something for my perspective.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think all of that stuff really can help, Yeah.
Yeah. Also, something I think which changed everything for me is really to address trauma in general, to really go deeper and see where the blockages are, where the real blockages are, because sometimes we're holding back, or we have problems in an area and it's linked to something much deeper. So I'm really determined to find out what's holding me back and also resolving it. That's why I think counseling is so much worth, because I read a lot of spiritual books and I watch videos on YouTube, and there's so much great stuff, but really work specifically on some personal trauma is different. If you have someone who's guiding you there and who's giving you advice how you can handle the next upcoming week, how to handle your situations. And since I found a good counselor, I feel like things are taking off much better.
Yeah, and for me, it didn't take that many appointments with the counselor before I knew, oh, this really is helping.
Yeah, same for me.
I particularly liked the counselor I went to because it was very, let's see, we actually, if it wasn't for the counselor, I wouldn't have considered family history, because that was one of the initial questions. Well, what about family history? Do you think that, X, Y, and Z? And I was like, you know what? I had never even thought about that. But actually, there is some family history that would suggest that I might have some challenges with this sort of thing. And that immediately made me feel less like an alien, and then just like talking to someone that has dealt with the same stuff, that also makes you feel less like you're the only one, and I don't know, that's all of that. Just it just really helped, and I think talking to people in general about it, I think is good. Obviously, a trained counselor is going to be better.
And you have to find the right one, because there are also, I tried several ones, and there were a lot of them it didn't match. And now I found someone who, she used to be a ballerina at the Paris Opera. So we have something in common in terms of the artist life and the creative side, or our creative personality. So now we're really clicking as people. So somehow she can do more for me.
So, so the future. So personal growth, stuff like maybe goals that you have, where you see yourself in the future, maybe musically, maybe family-wise, maybe otherwise, whatever it is. Yeah.
So for me, what's on my list is to have my own project, and to do my own arrangements. I think it will be quite jazzy. I think I will be playing a lot of upright bass, maybe a little bit of E-bass too. But for the funny thing is that I'm not so scared about the music itself. I'm more scared about talking to people and being in the front. That's what's holding me back for now, because I'm still too scared to be on stage and talk to people. So and that's what you have to do it if you have your own project. So I'm still like, oh, I can't. And I'm trying to overcome it. But I have some ideas, and I think I'm just starting small, and in the winter I think I'm gonna take some time off to write arrangements and to collect my ideas and have a more precise idea of what I want to play, and maybe also do some rehearsals and figure out with whom I'm going to do the project. So yeah, that's very important for me to do, I think.
And as far as like, do you have some things that you're personal growth? I mean, you don't have to. I don't need details.
It's fine.
but as far as so I'll give you an example of myself. So one of the things I'm looking to, like I said, I have this. I've had this injury. I'm looking to get back more consistent in the gym. I have some fitness goals in mind. Career-wise, as far as projects and things, I've got a project that that I've been kind of dragging my feet on, but I need to, get into that. And then, like, if I look at, like, down the road, people do these, like, 5-year, 10 years, where do you see yourself, all that kind of stuff. This is going to be episode 202 of this Conversations with Dr. Thunder series, and it started March of 2020. Yes, when the pandemic started.
That's how you got the idea to do interviews, or did you do?
It was something that I wanted to do. Yeah, it was something that I wanted to do prior, but you know, I was busy, and the kind of folks that I wanted to talk to, everybody was, you know, obviously engaged, busy and stuff, you know, so it would have been harder to get the kinds of folks that I wanted to interview. But, you know, as soon as the pandemic started, everyone became immediately available. So then it was very easy to, uh, you know, get started. And I've fortunately played with a lot of great musicians, and so that was great. And my interview series started out mostly with musicians, but then it, you know, my goal always was to interview a wide array of different kinds of folks. And so I've interviewed politicians and, you know, dancers and athletes and YouTube personalities, social media personalities, all kinds of folks with, you know, a wide range of perspectives and views on different topics and things. And so it's been very engaging and interesting. I really enjoy having conversations.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely.
What makes you wanna reach out to a person, or what inspires you to think, oh, this person I would like to talk to, or it's interesting what this person has to say, or?
Yeah, you know, I can kind of see certain things in people. You know, I was interested in interviewing you. I mean, first of all, you're fine bass player. Your social media presence suggested that you would have some interesting things to dialogue about. I could tell that, you know, for instance, and this is a strange thing, but it's pretty easy for me to tell if someone is an introvert.
Yeah, for me too. I can see this. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just see it, and I'm not fooled by stuff that most people are fooled by. So, for instance, people are surprised when I tell them I'm an introvert, because they've seen me do all of these, you know, interviews, and they've seen me do all of this stuff. I mean, I teach, you know, it's a primary revenue stream for me is teaching, right? So I do a lot of teaching, work at a university. I'm standing in front of classes. I do all these big presentations on like this, performing on the stage, you know. I have I'm pretty, you know, opinionated. You know, I have a lot of ideas about a lot of different things. And so people are surprised, oh, you're an introvert? No, I don't believe you're an introvert. You know?
Yeah, because they don't see the struggle. They don't see how much it takes from you to get to the point to go out and talk to people. And I also explain this to people. I know some people are surprised when I tell them how anxious I can be sometimes. Only to go, sometimes I'm even anxious to go buy stuff at the grocery store. It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm fine. Sometimes I have the easiest things are hard to do.
Yeah, see, and this is always the question that I ask people. This is always the question. So, to determine if you're an introvert or an extrovert, because some people are not sure. So I interviewed Taylor Eichste, who just won the Grammy won a Grammy.
Amazing.
And he's an introvert, but when I was talking to him about it, he wasn't sure. He said, well, sometimes I'm extroverted, sometimes I'm introverted, sometimes I think I'm a combination of the two, right? And so I just asked the question. I said, okay, if you go to a social event where there's no topic in common, so we're not talking about a conference. We're not going to a music conference where everybody's musicians, and so worst case scenario, you can just start nerding out about music. So, you know, so it doesn't take as much energy. But you don't know who the people are. It's a mixer. You're just meeting random people. If you had to do that for an hour, would that be energy depleting or energy rejuvenating? And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely an introvert."
So easy. Yeah.
Because if I have to do that, I'd be so exhausted. I'd need like 2 days of sleep just to get over. That is extremely. I cannot small talk. Small talk is not that.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Yes. And some people can't even understand. They're like, why? I mean, it's nothing. But for me, it's like the worst situation is when I have to talk to someone about nothing. It's like,
yeah, it's terrible. Oh my goodness, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I recognize that in others. I'm always interested in talking to musicians, because that's been the passion of my life, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been the thing that has facilitated everything else, right? Everything in my life has been paid for by music, facilitated by music. Every relationship that I have has been facilitated by music. I met my wife because of music. I met, my, and so then therefore my family and everything, everything. It's all because of music. And so I have this sort of, I don't know. I always feel like I'm going to have engaging conversations with musicians, but I feel like I can have an engaging conversation with anybody that is willing to listen and is willing to be generous. I have had a couple interviews that were difficult, because it was like you couldn't get them to start talking, and you needed to ask like very specific questions to get them to be willing to say anything. And in my mind, like a conversation is an opportunity for you to go anywhere you want to go. So you can interpret the question in any way you want to. And if you have something to say, then, you use whatever question is being asked to say what it is that you want to say. Right. So that's one of the things about conversation, communication.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like a lot of people crave deeper conversation, and yet it's so difficult. It seems to be so hard for some to open up. And even, I mean, I don't know if you're a lot on Instagram, but I feel like it would be so interesting if there were great musicians. There are so many great musicians. If they would just post from time to time about their insecurities or about the struggle, because then you don't always have the feeling like they're all superheroes, because that's also making you feel small. And I think we're living in a time where it gets really important to be comfortable with vulnerability and sensitivity, and we're craving it. So why is it so hard? And I really am on a mission I am actually getting really comfortable with it now, to just tell people who I am, the good things and also the difficult things. And I feel so much better because I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah. Transparency.
Exactly.
It's exhausting pretending to be something that you're not.
Yes.
It's really,
I think that's how you get depression. I think if you're not authentic and you don't, it costs so much energy to be someone else.
Yeah. Well, Leonie, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate your generosity and your willingness to sit down and talk with me. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah. And yeah, I think we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I want to do a sort of working musicians panel at some point, and so maybe I can call you for that. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. I'm in. Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
All right, now. See ya.
Talk to you soon. Yeah. Bye.
All right, now. Bye.